Yeah, Mohan. So you can start. We have started the recording as well. Yeah, Mohan. Can you hear us? Yeah,
Anyone speaking? Yeah,
yeah, you
yeah.
can. Yeah, you
Welcome,
can.
welcome to the session. We wait for some more time. Rohan?
No, you can start.
Hey guys, good morning and welcome to the session, today's session. And it is, I would like to thank you for taking some of your precious time and joining this meeting. And uh, JSS, Sitecore JSS, and that's what I started, putting together this PPT for. So let's start. So yeah, so this is what I thought I'll put together today. So introduction, brief about me is Vinod already took that part. So and Sitecore JSS and overview, we'll see what is there part as part of the Sitecore JSS and overview. Prerequisites, what we need to start with, Sitecore JSS, and we'll start building the Sitecore JSS app and app deployment. So how do we deploy once we have this, you know, Sitecore JSS app created? How do we deploy that to Sitecore? And some of the other concepts like developer workflow and application modes, followed by Q&A. So this is what is there as part of the agenda. So hope you are able to hear me. I just wanted to confirm.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, this is brief about me. I'll not spend much time. Vinod has already explained. So, okay. So let me drag it somewhere. Can I hide this one? Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So brief about Sitecore JSS. So it's a JavaScript JDK actually for front-end developers. So where it enables JavaScript developers to work on Sitecore and create app based on Sitecore, JavaScript based app to connect to Sitecore and get the data from backend and display that. So it is front end. JSS enables front end developers to build full-fledged applications and using modern JS UI libraries and frameworks. Some of the frameworks are libraries like React, Angular, Vue, and React Native. So these are the libraries it supports currently. So why JSS? Why there are so many things are there? Why do we really need JSS? So here are a few reasons why we need Sitecore JSS. Going forward, like JSS, JavaScript, our front end is taking over much of the task than in the back end. Back end is more limited to either some APIs or some storage, or you connect to some other integration box. More of that is what backend is moving to now in the trend. So with front end as a tool, how do we connect to Sitecore, get the data? So with that concept, they've designed this. Like more of a few of the headless CMS also you would have heard of. They are taking more ask than the full scale Sitecore where it involves full Sitecore backend. So that with that design, they have come up with the JSS. So it works with the disconnected from Sitecore, like disconnected mode, like where you need not have to have Sitecore installed on your machine to start working on this Sitecore JSS app. So code first approach. So that is using code for first approach. Build your JSS application with React, Angular, and Vue. Also React Native also for mobile application. Utilize the layout service. Yeah. So the Sitecore JSS provides with the CLI, which provides a layout service. So it's installed as a part of the package to Sitecore. It provides in a connection or a layout service to connect to Sitecore, talk to Sitecore and get the data. So both the data and the routes to navigate to different application hierarchy. So that it provides full Sitecore capabilities like experience editor, personalization, whatever the Sitecore capabilities which we use to see as part of the marketers and analytics tracking, or those things are enabled in Sitecore JSS. And there are server-side renderings also where it provides a experience editor mode of editing this for marketers. It ease of editing, and it is a true headless capabilities also there where you can, if you somebody wants to consume only the use the Sitecore as a backend completely as a storage or a repository, and talk through some APIs or API calls and get only the data from Sitecore. That is also added into Sitecore JSS. So this is where it is kind of taking a priority over other traditional Sitecore development approach. So what are the prerequisites that we need here? So Sitecore JSS is a package where it added into any questions or confusion. So I'll move on. Sitecore or here 9 point or 9 point later versions are enabled with JSS, but not as part of the installation, but as a package. So we can go to this link and download the Sitecore JSS package and need to install that. Node.js is required for this, for creating the React app and running through or React or Angular JS or any other app. And npm is required. So as part of the prerequisites. And suppose that, like, once we have this, installed or the Sitecore package, where we need to have this say separate license for it actually. So the Sitecore JSS is not provided with a default license capability. It is a separate added license on top of the basic Sitecore. So that needs to be we have to check if that our Sitecore installation or the instance is having this capability or not, licensed or not. And make sure that, like, there are some settings like you have to in the web config you have to set it to the debug equal to true to run the local application, and make sure that, like, yeah, so the when we are calling from different domains, so we have to have this allowed controls set. So the allowed controls for development environment, it will be set to star usually for allowing all the controls, all the domain. But otherwise, when we set it in the production, there are like allowed controls we can set, like a layout service control is implemented through for layout service. Dictionary service there is a control, and GraphQL there is a control. And if there are any custom controls which we implement, those needs to be allowed in the class origin. So we'll go to that application and see how that is configured, and then we'll be able to understand and relate to these points. Yeah, so before we go there, I'll just go here and just want uh, you to take you through this one. So I think you can check the license details here. You can check your license details here, whether the Sitecore JSS is enabled with this my installation or not. And yeah, let it come up. Apart from that, so I wanted to show you the package which I installed in the app data. Yeah, this is the package which I was talking about, which we installed which I have installed already as part of the, enabling the Sitecore JSS to work on. And let me go back. Yeah. So if you type and search by JSS keyword, no, you'll be able to find the JSS license here. Kindly go on mute. Kindly go on mute. Um, I think it will be displayed with all the license enabled here. I think it's not showing me here. Let me check that. Okay, so this is how basically you will check the license details, whether it is allowed or not. I think install licenses. Let me see here. Yeah, sorry. This is where you can find out whether the license is JSS enabled or not. So I'll move on, and yeah, I've currently set up with the 9.0 version of Sitecore. I also have 9.1.1. So we'll see when we go to the demo. So as part of this settings, we have to set two values here, which I was telling. So one is the in the config web config where compilation debug equal to true and allowed controls on the Sitecore. So let me go back to the package here, and we'll check the web config settings. So you can say compile or debug. Compile is best. Yeah, here I have enabled the debug equal to true, and I also want to. Okay, still loading. So they're like in the services section where we will be able to set this on the API key when we create an API key. So let it load. We'll go back. So As part of this, so this is as part of the Sitecore installation. What is required as part of like in a disk? If I want to work as a disconnected mode of a Sitecore as a front end developer, if I want to start with the JSS, so these are the steps. First, you have to have this two packages. One is npm and sorry Node.js and npm installed on your machine. Then you can run this command actually. So npm install this Sitecore CLI is what we need to install. So Sitecore CLI will enable us to start with Sitecore JSS application from the front end as a front end guy. So where I can create and work on a disconnected application. It's not come up yet. So either while for running that query, either you can go with your PowerShell or with an ID, a Visual Studio ID, where you can go and open the terminal, navigate to any of the folder where you want to set up that application, and run that. So here, go and copy this. So it's there as part of the Sitecore documentation here itself, where what we need to do. So here we can run this. Suppose if I want to set up one, say like I want to set up a new environment where I need to install this. So we can run this command. We can install this Sitecore CLI globally and enable this. Then we can go ahead and create. Post this, we can go and add and create this a React application. Some problem there. Let me go back and I can create a React application. So this is the command to create React application. Create, sorry, it is JSS create. So then you can choose your app name, my first app or my first JSS app, my JSS app. So that is going to be your JSS application name, and you can choose the JS framework. So one is React, which is kind of a more of a standard now. So the other way is Angular and Angular JS, and Vue is also possible, and React Native is also possible. So we can create using React and create the React application. So this is the command to do that. Let me go back to the presentation. So suppose that as I was telling, so choose your application template. So this is the part of the syntax. So where you JSS create and your app name and application template name. So that is either React or Vue or Angular. So this is where the syntax. Once while creating React app, if you encounter any en connect rest or reset this error particularly. So when we are behind private, sorry, a corporate proxy, this will come. So make sure that you run that in a private network. So this will be resolved. So I wanted to show you this, but so yesterday I installed some client, certificate. It's not running actually. So just try that if it works. So I'm working on a client project where I installed, you know, uh, client certificate actually. So it is not running. So post that, yeah. So this is the next step. Once you install the CLI, once you install you create your app. So next step is to change the directory to that folder like this, where I went into my cd JSS. So this is the folder you have to change back to the app folder, JSS app folder, and JSS start. You can issue this command. So to start the application in a disconnected mode, you have to start this, issue this command. So it basically runs in a by default 3000 port 3000, and if you want, you can change it, change the port in 2-3 places actually. So if something is already running, so you can change the port in packet.json. There'll be I think here you can mention the port. Sorry, React start React. Here you can mention your port. So that port equal to whatever, and that will start. Like you want to if you want to run it on a 4000 port 4000, you can start that and run that application that will start running in a port 4000. So this is going to be my local application. It will be like let it load. So it will be like it looks like this. Application is little slow in my environment, and sorry about that. I'll just log in and come back there. Oh, okay. I'll come back there. I think it is taking time. So I'll just jump back to my slide. Huh. So once you start the application, it will start with the 3000 port, and that I showed. That is one of the place where you can change the port, or you can create a .end file also. And just for your example, for your awareness, I'll show you an application where we can set the port as a .end file, and you can run that. So here you can directly create .end file, a text file, and you can mention that port. So it is just .end, and you can mention that port equal to 4000, or any suitable port which is available for you. So this also will is one of the way where you can change the port of the application. Apart from that, I'll jump back. Yeah, so this is one. Yeah, after suppose this once you start this local disconnected mode of running your application, you can either create a new component or you can deploy. So this is how it looks. So this is actually not running in my application. This is how it looks in your local when it comes up, the application when it comes up with a disconnected mode. And so this is going to be like for a front-end developer. So he can either create the content in the front from the front end and run that app deployment and to install the or create the move the artifacts into Sitecore. So to briefly take you through the JSS application which we when we create. So usually we will have one Sitecore folder, one SRC folder, and JSS config .json, where we will have this configuration. This we need not have to set manually when we run JSS setup. So that time when we go ahead and we'll see what are the steps to configure this. And here the package JSON which we saw earlier, and majorly these are the Sitecore components. So this is like definition of your Sitecore, any Sitecore component. So suppose if you want to create a custom component, so what you can do is you can issue a command here, JSS scaffold, whatever the name of the component. So I can use this as well. So what JSS, then scaffold, and you can say like my second component. So this will, what it does is it will create the basic scaffolding required for that component, custom component, and it will create that component inside this application. So this is how it looks. So if we say like this is the custom component which I created earlier, and you can provide the name of that. It will come up with the name by default. You can add the fields here, like the field text, single line, rich text, or whatever the Sitecore fields which are available. So you will be able to add add all the fields here. This is the definition, like a kind of a template for your component. And so post that, if we create, so this is my second component which got just now created. So here the name, it is coming up with the name by default, and there'll be one default field with a single line text box. So you can configure like header description or a description you can type. And you can change the fields like rich text box. So these fields will be available here, and you can change the fields and save this. And now you can. So this is about the kind of a definition of the Sitecore component, or a template kind of structure when we compare to Sitecore. So and post that, we have to create this component, actual component here. So where see if you see this one, so it is already created the scaffolding for me, and so it has already come up with one of the field already, which by default it created. Now I have to go on adding that kind of a rendering. Um, this is kind of a rendering for disconnected mode. So here I have to add description, which the new field which I created. description. So here, whatever the number of fields which we add in the definition, we can add it here, and this creates a rendering. So where like it's kind of a we write HTML, right? So this is syntax of a JSX. Probably one who has worked already with a React would be knowing. So this will be coming, and you can provide all. It's kind of a you can write HTML here, HTML here, but HTML in terms of JSX syntax. You can provide break. You can do those kind of things, or you can wrap it in a div. So this is kind of a rendering uh, where we kind of define how my data should look, or how my data should be rendering on HTML. So this is place where we important place where we need to concentrate on when we are developing in a disconnected mode. Apart from that, the two other places which I showed, that is configs. So that we'll see when we run that JSS setup. Yeah, once you are able to successfully start the JSS app, your next step should be like deploying this Sitecore disconnected app to a site, to the Sitecore instance. So we have to use the JSS CLI commands like JSS. First, we have to you run the JSS configs command. I'll go back here for the command. Here you will be having this deployment commands. So next command is JSS setup. So you have to run this one, and so we need to last some parameters. So those are of these parameters actually. So when you go and the next step is add your new JSS domain. Yeah, that before we deploy or start deploying this newly created JSS app into the Sitecore, we have two other steps to do. So one is adding your domain to post entry as well as IS binding. So these two steps are required. Post that, you have to have this API key created. So if you are freshly developing and if it is not created, then you have to have this API key created. Bit low today. Yeah. So yeah, under this, if one more thing which we need to know is if you are running version 9 and those version 9 are the initial updates of our Sitecore 9. So you will have this setting in core database. Otherwise, if it is 9.1 and onwards, it will be in master database. So that is just one thing to note. And here you will have this API key. So by default, it will not be there. If you are freshly creating a new JSS application, you can right click and create this API key. So there is a template which is already set here. So you can just right click here and create this. Oh. Yeah, so this template is already will already be there as part of our Sitecore package installation. And so this API key, once we create, we will have 2 3 settings to do. And one thing to note down is this is the API key item ID which we need for running our layout service queries. So this API key is important. You can probably copy it to Notepad and note down that this is one thing which is required. And there are 2 other settings. So as I was mentioning earlier, so cross-origin calls, if we need to allow, usually definitely we will be allowing when we are creating a JSS app, because we are going to call our layout service from other application, React application, or any other domain. So we need to allow those domains. So for development purpose, it's safe to say start and allow controls which I was mentioning. Is this is the place where you can particularly only allow particular controls like layout service. If you want only that control, you can allow, or if you want to allow dictionary service alone, you can allow, or for development purpose you can set it as star. So this is required. It's not mandatory, but it's better to mention. So this user will be used to used in when we are issuing GraphQL queries or any like GraphQL mutations or subscriptions. So this is the where this is the user, it will use this to create those items using GraphQL and other functionalities. So these three are the settings here, and we need to note down the API key. So let me go here. Yeah. So once we note down the API key, we can go and set those cars and all, which we just now walked through. And then post that all the settings, we can run this command just to check whether we are having a right service layout, layout service working or not, or whether we have configured our app correctly or not. Post that this is the before deployment. So this checks needs to be done. Let me run fetch a query and run this. So this is the place where you can mention if you want to path. You can mention if you want to query like different items. Say like here I'm querying home/articles. So from a layout service, you can mention that path like that. Or if it is a home, home item, you can just say slash and just run that. So this is the format API/layout/render /JSS. Then the item we what we want to query. So that is the syntax for it. Let me check it for you. So this is the syntax to query and check before moving on deploying your app into say JSS app into the Sitecore. Looks like some error there. So with the certification with the certificate, I have some error here. It's not allowing me to run these queries actually with Sitecore. Sorry, client certificates which I've installed yesterday. So that is giving trouble here. But otherwise, you can note down this and this is the way where we can query and check before we start with the deployment of our app.
One item, like we don't have value in the item query listing, so that is correct.
We here,
In the path, like after item, we don't have any value, just slash is there. So that is correct.
yeah. So this is
Oh,
correct. So this is going to be home. No, home item actually. It will be.
okay, okay.
Mohan, I think the
So
URL
no, this
is
is
HTTPS twice in the protocol.
okay.
Okay.
I think the rest is correct. Let me see.
Colon missing.
A colon is missing in
Yeah,
your
yeah.
HTTPS.
Sorry. Yeah, actually, I've installed some of the client certificates. That's why it's not allowing me to create, and it is giving me certificate error that this is the same. So I think yes, I think I was with the wrong syntax. It was not coming. So this is the way you can check. First, if you do not have any item to query, or if you do not know API, you can just say test and say like whether that is coming up or not. It just shows some data or okay. So before our deployment, we can check this too, this URLs and check whether it is working or not. And post that we have to run JSS setup command. So yeah, so here you have to check before running this command that other two steps. So is domain configuration and host setting we have to do, and then run the JSS setup command. And with the JSS setup command, it will throw like 3 4 queries for us, like whether you want to is your Sitecore instance on this machine, are accessible or not, and these queries. Let me run this and see. So let me. Yeah. So it will ask few questions where first one it will say like some error it is giving. Yeah, sorry. It is asking the path in the first query, like of my application path. Sitecore application path. So I can just better navigate from here. Or to the Sitecore folder, and then host name of this application. So we can have the same host name. So you can enter if you do not want to change it. So the your import service URL, if you are importing to a different URL, you can mention, else you can just press enter. and this is the domain key. Let me validate my the domain key which is here. I think that is going to take time. So it's the same key. If it is the same key which is coming, you can just press enter and move on. So deployment secret allow it to create or generate it for us. And this is the way where we configure this JSS app. And it will, if you see this one, there'll be some like this host names and other settings which are with the deployment secret. All these things are saved into this configuration. One is scjss config.json, and deployment secret will be saved here in another deployment secret config, and it will also give us the next steps what we can do. One is first we have to deploy the configuration before we deploy the content and the dictionary items. So we can run this command. So and post that we can deploy the content. So it is deployed this Sitecore this configuration which is there in the JSS app, which is there here in JSS app, to the Sitecore instance to the web root, and now we can actually run the deploying the content and the dictionary items. So the command is here. It is given here for JSS deploy app. So you can either call content, or you can call full name, or you can call just C for content, and you can also mention if you want to deploy -D for dictionary item. So if you do not want to in a real time scenario, once you deploy this app first time, so into your Sitecore application, so we need not have to deploy this content. So usually in a production or in a regular development mode, we need not have to deploy this content every time. So that time we can omit this these two parameters and just deploy, and that will deploy only the definition files and the configs and files which is there as part of the say JSS component. So only it will deploy those. And there are different commands you can like deploy files are there, deploy other commands are there, only where we can deploy with those options. So let's see if I can deploy this. So this will take little like 2-3 minutes of your time running and deploying all the contents and overwriting. So there is an error. Not the type. Think some error there. So we'll move on, and we'll go to our PPT.
Yeah, that's okay.
Yeah. So these are the questions which will ask. It will ask, and you can run either this. This is the full command like hyphen include content include dictionary, and otherwise you can say like cnd. It usually runs. I don't know why that is not running. Then after this is successful, it will take around 3-4 minutes, and majorly there can be error also. Sometimes like you will get a certificate related error. Then you have to say accept hyphen accept certificate. Probably that command will be there. I think I have there in my blog also. So that if you run, so it will give us the actual certificate which it is looking for. So that you have to replace and run that. I think it is there on my blog which I have written. So that is a little important to know because that command usually is not there in on the Google. So just why, that's why I'm opening that. Otherwise, it was not needed. Mm, yeah, I think here is the command. So it is really slow. Yeah. So usually when we are deploying, no, so that this error we encounter usually when you guys encounter this. So what you need to do is like you have to run this JSS deploy app, and then you have to give accept certificate. Just type in this. So actually, if this key is wrong, it will give the right key in the just below this command. If you type and so if you type here, so it will give us if it is a wrong key, it will give us the right key, and you just copy paste this part alone. It will that will, error will be resolved. So it is that it's not mentioned in not many articles. So that's why I wanted to take you through this. Apart from that, yeah. So let me see if that is running. Yes. So it will take some 2-3 minutes. We'll see. Those are like that is kind of a creation of your first JSS application or deployment along with the deploying the application to Sitecore. So there are different modes. We will go through that, and basically this is what happens actually. So whenever a front-end developer develops in Sitecore JSS application using React or any of the JavaScript frameworks. So you'll be you're using either Visual Studio Code or then style what is that there are many commands. Atom is one more thing is there, and whatever the IDE which you are using, so you will develop that. Once your development is complete, so that is for a front end developer. So you can you can import this content using the import command, which is like import service. So through that app deploy, JSS deploy app, and then the command which we ran. So that pushes this content and the Sitecore artifacts into Sitecore. So this is if you take this part as a Sitecore. So it push all this content and configurations into this. Sorry, not configurations, only the Sitecore items. Templates if there are any, and contents, any set placeholders, all those things will be pushed into Sitecore. So through import service. So and once so that is done, so we will have different channels to provide this or cater this Sitecore content to different client. Like a layout service will be like either you can call directly, just we ran the layout service query, right? So that is this one, like where we can directly query layout service using a path of the Sitecore item, or you can using if you want to host the the different application and call only the API mode, you can use this layout service only to call the API and get only the content which is required, and you rest you do the other part in your other Node.js application or another application. And the other one is view engine. This is where like server side renderings will run using Node.js host. So here we will be using this for mostly content editing and other things using the server side rendering. This enables the capability. And the client side service. So SSC, where Sitecore provides another option where you just like we had item APIs, web APIs, item web APIs. So similar way, this content service APIs are there where you can call from server side and get particular content or particular item data. So that is enabled using this. And a dictionary service also. If you earlier we used to create some labels and dictionary items, no? So there is a Sitecore as a separate place, separate service where you just want to consume a label into your front end, then you can use the dictionary service. So that is part of the the services which are provided, and all these things will be a Sitecore. Rest all is like this is a another front end application or IDE where you develop the code, and this will be like hosted for separate node server where we call API only mode of data and the browsers. So this is a brief about the architecture. Let's see if we think this is the error which I'm getting. That's fine. Let's see. So we'll just go back to Sitecore and see some other things here. So if you deploy post deployment, this applications will be created. Whatever the JSS app which you create will be created here or kind of imported here through import service, and it will create components. And if you whatever the components you create will be here, like custom component, whatever we create will be imported here. And the content, if we check the content here, if this is a place for a React app to create a content, where you can directly create the content if there is like side front-end developers are so sophisticated. They both are a full stack developers. If we are a team of a full stack developer, we can create the content from the front end itself, but that will be for a smaller application. It has its own disadvantages and advantages. So these files will be deployed here or imported here. This content and dictionary items will be created and here.
Even just one question on that
Sure,
front.
sure, sure.
Yeah, just wanted to know what are the incapabilities in terms of JSS which we are not able to import the things into the site core.
Yeah. So we can import actually. So whatever the content which we can create, we can import. If you want to language version also, you can create and import. Only thing is the file size of the content. If it is for a huge application or a kind of enterprise application, if you see, so if you want to create front end, you can create that. But the size of the your application where it should be thin will be huge, right? So that is where they will not prefer disconnected mode, but disconnected mode will be possible where a React application, React front end developer works on React code, where you will just create and may takes care of rendering part and other session and the other details, and he more works on the style and the rendering part. And Sitecore, we will be creating the content and will be served through the React will call this layout service and get the content for the component. There will be kind of contract created for each request from the layout service. So we'll go back to when we go back to the different modes and different application modes. We'll come to know like what are all the different application modes are there, and advantages, and why we in which case we use it. Was it did it answer
Yeah, thanks.
part of it? Oh, okay. So usually this is where like we don't. This is when we are working on a connected mode in a production environment where I am currently working on. It will be like your first deployment will be done through this React app, where you just create a basic framework and deploy first time, and rest all will we will not deploy any of the content here. We just deploy files only. So using JSS deploy files and the other commands which are there. So we will use that, and we will not deploy any commands, sorry, content and dictionary items usually. So that is one thing. And in the production, usually people prefer Sitecore first approach. We'll discuss that. Okay. Mm, yeah. So these items will be created here. Sorry, imported here, and this is like capable of so experience editor capable. You can run and see that, and yeah. So this is the content structure. Apart from that, yeah. So I have that same which we were discussing last time, few minutes back. So there are two workflows which for developer to choose. One is like code first, where our team, our developers is of more of full stack developers, where we can code both the front end as well as the back end. That approach we can go for code first, where we create the content as well as the components and then deploy. So that is one approach. Otherwise, the Sitecore approach is there, Sitecore first approach, where a backend developer, as a Sitecore guys, I'll create my templates, the renderings, content, and dictionary items or the labels. Then I set up and give this, layout services are the URLs to the front end, kind of a contract where if I consume this item, I'll be getting this kind of data. So which we saw like in one of the query, right? So when we run the correct path of the URL or the URL when we are consuming, so this establishes a contract from the for the front end guy and gives a certain JSON data. So it is the contract which both front end and back end developer agree, and he will code the components according to that front end guy, and we will also create the content Sitecore template and content according to that contract. So this is where more preferred approach of the second one we'll see. So code first, a front-end developer works in a disconnected from Sitecore, and you don't need to have Sitecore installed first. So then he will create, mostly he will create the components and rendering part, as I mentioned. And the Sitecore IA will be like when we are in the code first approach, we will be developer has to create everything for in the front end application itself, in the React application itself. So he has to take care of the templates, definitions, and the rendering part, and will be deployed as a import process or import service to the Sitecore. And this allows us to execute the content. So like we can run this without really connecting to a Sitecore, just to see how whether my application is matching what is expected, so that we can run and see without even deploying to Sitecore. And so this is, as I mentioned, good for smaller projects or temporary sites or prototype designs where like content will be much less, like some 10 pages I need to develop and show as a prototype. So this is where it fits. And front-end led projects, like if the guys are like more of front-end developers there, they can pick up from this code first approach. And micro apps within a larger site, like if within an enterprise application, if I want to build a small app, we can consider this. And yeah, Sitecore first approach is like where we create the contents, templates, renderings, and contents from the backend side, and we will test against a layout service. We can run and test against the layout service. That JSON can be provided to front end. Or the URL can be provided to front-end developers. You will work against that JSON, and you will create the components. So that is going to be the contract actually. And front-end works with disconnected mode and creates components. Here we need not have to create the mock or the mock content. So here we can create, and he will work on that JSON which we provide. Contract can be defined first to allow the concurrent work. So it is good for complex or enterprise applications. Currently, which I am working on one of that same kind of this, and we follow Sitecore first approach. Organization looking for full control over IA. That is like if your organization looks for like I need to develop, I need to structure my content, and then we will see how do we render this. That kind of applications we can go with Sitecore first. So yeah, FEDs as need not be Sitecore expert. And when you want to match, if you want to match a already existing applications, you can run that like Sitecore first. If there is like some part of the content is already there, and you want to restructure it and create a different information architecture, so Sitecore first is the best option. And different application modes are there. Yeah, so here one is disconnected mode, which we saw the where we develop this and deploy it to Sitecore. Run first without any Sitecore having set up the Sitecore, and run that and see. The other way is connected mode. We'll see like in details. Integrated mode, API mode, headless, server-side rendering mode. So these are the different modes. Here in disconnected mode, so here developer, which we ran on one of the application there. So here you will just query this URL or front end, local app, locally hosted application, and that goes into the mock proxy of say the React application, and it will fetch the data from React. So the YML file which we just saw. So YML file. So this is the data it gets, and I think that proxy will be set here in the server. If I'm wrong, that proxy will be set here. 3034, I think it will be there. So here somewhere we set this proxy. It is by default when we install the React application when we create a JSS application with the React command. So this will be created by default. If you want, you can change the port. That is okay. So apart from that, Sitecore not required here in the disconnected mode. Just to create and run and create mockup content as well, or test content. So for each page, that is disconnected mode fits perfectly. So what's the local content like? We'll run the local application using port 3000, and we can check that one. So users local content data comes from JSON or YML files. We just saw one of the example, and rendering performed by the browser. Here, that is what the content comes from here, which we just saw. And so this content will be served from one of the setting here. I forgot where is that setting actually, the proxy. And the requested browser will be from this application. This is what the picture represents here. So developer requests a URL and goes and hits the proxy and gets the content from a local mock content. So in the connected mode, like we develop the Sitecore content, as I mentioned, and Sitecore content, this is the Sitecore URL, our content editor URL. So this is kind of one of the URL we can consider for representation here. And this it's a development server. Either you can, while deploying whatever the name you give, that will be the dev server or the URL, and that gets so reverse way. So here he requests this one, and this goes into this URL and gets the content from Sitecore. But the development happens here mostly, and we will fetch the content from for a React application. So the content will be rendered in a React application. So few points we'll see. Sitecore required here. Sitecore expertise required before we create every content, all those things. So this also was like data locally, or the site will be hosted locally. Content from data from Sitecore. We will create the content in Sitecore first, and rendering performed by the browser. So that is what we saw. Integrated mode. So this is one of the specified mode where you can embed your query or GraphQL query or any other query, or you can when you are running experience editor. So this mode will be used actually. Integrated mode. So here you will request the Sitecore, that is experience editor mode. And if you want to run a GraphQL query and just check, so that also can be embedded into your rendering, and just you will request first Sitecore the experience at preview mode, and that comes and gets the content and displays in a the Sitecore server side rendering using a server side rendering. SSR is that Sitecore server side rendering. So we'll see a few of the points. Sitecore required here also. So was Sitecore data on Sitecore? It's like a Sitecore instance is where we are testing this or running this. Content data from Sitecore layout service. Here again, it uses the Sitecore service server side rendering to get the talks to Sitecore database or Sitecore and gets the data and renders here. So that is a rendering used here. And the next one is headless server-side rendering mode. Here, a specific case is where so this is mostly will be used for any CD servers. So where user requests another app where I hosted abc.com or yourapp.com. So this app will be having a service to call this Sitecore URL, and that in turn will call the Sitecore DB or Sitecore to get the content. So this is a specific headless, like we need not have to have this everything configured for from the Sitecore. Is just a Sitecore access a repository here. Sitecore access a repository for this data, and the service service will be called for an app service will be hosted for this so headless server side rendering, and that will be called only the required data will be called from here, and that's how this application gets the data from Sitecore. Yes, server-side rendering performed on the Node server. Usually, Node server is what they mentioned. I have not worked on this kind of, yet on this. Data from Sitecore's CD layout service. Yeah, an app service which will be called for this layout service and gets the data from Sitecore. And there is one more, which is like specifically you host a API from Sitecore server side, where so you either through some service like layout service or GraphQL service or dictionary service, you can call this API, particular API, and get only the required data. Say like I want to get only the product A data. So similar way as server side, this one, but it's only provided through API. So that is one of the mode actually. Yeah, I think almost I'm there for, but some of the benefits and conclusion I have listed here. Before we go to this one, did I miss anything here? Because application was not running. So this is how the first component will be rendered. And here, so there are different ways like you can configure your placeholders as well. So the placeholders can be configured, your templates and sorry, component can be configured from the front end. And yeah, I think mostly that is what we usually configure, and the rest all will be a rendering logic will be written here. And apart from that, yeah, I think so. This is from the Sitecore end. So we'll go back to the benefits of the Sitecore JSS. So, here the why people are going for Sitecore JSS is like so reduced amount of coding required by markup, like when we write an MVC application, we have to write the backend logic to get the data from Sitecore either through Sitecore a item service or through so different APIs where we fetch the data from MVC, right? So that markup also we need to write. So glass mapper, sorry, so I was missing the word. So when we write, we have to contact to Sitecore to get this item in the backend. Again, we have to pass this model to the MVC and write the razor syntax to render this. So this is where we can avoid that. So where Sitecore, front-end developer can directly write the HTML React component, and he will get the data directly from Sitecore. Where dependency on or the work of Sitecore developer will be reduced with this kind of Sitecore JSS model. Parallel development, like where I was saying, like, so this is going to be my JSON. You work against that, so that we can you say backend developer creates the component, he renders the data on a layout service, and he gives that JSON to front end developers. So front end developer is now independent, and he can create that component parallelly. So that is an advantage here. If we like front-end developer doesn't need to depend on back-end developer, only he need to know the structure. Like this is what is there. Like as a user profile, so these are the parameters I want to render. So that's all you want to know. So you will create his component based on whatever the agreed contract. It allows decoupled development. Also, Sitecore need not be configured in front-end developer machine, and easier to implement BDD. So currently we are working on such application. So where usually the client will give a behavior like a notification will be sent to the user when he click when he register a service register for a service. So that is the behavior driven development. You will say like my you as part of the user scenario, you will come and register for the service, and that is the scenario. So for that scenario, front end guy know what is the data which he need to send, and back end guys also know what is the data which he is looking for. So here we can create this parallelly. The development goes parallelly. So that is one advantage. And server-side rendering example is so if you want to consume a image directly, you can render that using server-side rendering. So that is Node.js rendering, which I have not used much as of now. So supports full site experience editor capabilities or Sitecore capabilities itself. We can mention like experience editor, personalization, MV testing, tracking, analytics. Yeah, but we need to by default it will this layout service will provide, but there are some configuration which we need to enable for this. So that we need to be careful about, and if we enable that, the tracking and analytics will be available for us automatic by out of the box. And Sitecore provides samples of integration yeah, these are the modern web they call. So the frameworks are templates which are available, which we can develop on Sitecore JSS. And in case of application scaling, yes, this is major advantage when we, with respect to customers' endpoint or customer perspective. So whenever my Sitecore data which developed remains same, so I need not have to hire one more Sitecore developer. Where if I need to cater this to a mobile application, same data, or a same product data, or same profile data, if I need to cater to a different mode or different application, I need not have to have a backend developer again. So my front end developer will take care. So this is advantage for the customer front, where if they want to cater to different modes or different applications, they can just have hire a front end developer and create the rendering required from the React or any other JS frameworks without changing or without much worrying about the backend components. So that is a reduced dependency with the backend developer, we can call. So that is what is there as part of the benefits so far in JSS. So I think that's all with that I came to an end of this. But yeah, some of the examples or whatever I planned did not work. I'm sorry for it.
No problem,
Any
Mohan.
questions?
Mohan, can you just ping the blog URL which you showed in the training in the chat? Maybe if someone wants to set up the JSS application, they can go through it.
Sure. Okay. Sure, I'll send that, Rohan.
Mohan, like I'm having just two doubts.
Yeah.
Like the first one is like suppose right now, as I am a site code developer and front end developer give us to HTML of the page, then we have to decide like how many rendering and like how many area we have to break the page. So as in terms of like front end developer is along going to do develop the page, so he needs to decide like how many rendering he has to break the full HTML into the rendering.
Yeah. So going forward, it is the case. So our as a site code developer, I'll be creating my component. So as part of my component, like so, let's see take one example. So you can break a component into multiple components also. Say like so this component, just for example, say like I display 10 fields here as part of this component.